It's Power Hour LSU.
I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter.
Let's freaking go. I have a lot to talk about tonight, and I want to start off talking actual football because, well, there was something else that happened and involved our guest from last night, Miss Piper Hutchinson. We have a pretty big guest lined up at 6:30, one that a lot of you know and love. So I want to talk a little bit about Brian Kelly here to start. There was a Brian Kelly story broken today. It was leaked that he is willing to work with this buyout potentially in a reduced nature, but he also said it needs to financially make sense. Well, financially making sense would be you not getting anything for getting fired on the job for not putting up the results that we expected you to be. But, you know, it's America. If you sign a contract, you should be able to follow through with it. And look, that's where we are right now with BK. But I want to defend Brian Kelly to a certain degree before we talk about the President Roos situation. There's always something new that comes up. Last night, we were all celebrating about alignment and all of that, but we'll get to that in a second. But I have talked so much about LSU's weak links, how in the modern sports world, and it may have always been about this in sports, but it seems like now more than ever, we have seen in sports that your weakest links are oftentimes the difference between winning and losing. So we've talked a lot about the weakest links on LSU's team, which has been at offensive tackle, which has been at tight end. It's been obviously at times the defensive tackle room. We've talked about all of that. But the truth is, you see the thumbnail image attached to this. LSU's big three players, the guys that they centered this entire team around, have not been good this year. We released a film study earlier today. I wanted to refresh my timeline with actual football breakdown about how Garrett can potentially attack an Alabama defense that you can beat over the top. We've also heard Frank Wilson talk about running the football. That's going to be a big point of emphasis for LSU versus Alabama. We'll get more into that for tomorrow's live stream when I give out my prediction. Alabama's rushing defense is second worst in the SEC on a per carry basis, so we might have a chance to get the run game going. But the truth is, Garrett Nussmeier has been a big disappointment. I've hammered home that point. Harold Perkins has also been a massive disappointment, but this has been the case for a few years now. And you can't go to the injury as a reason for it not working. But I want to talk a little bit about Whit Weeks. And look, the reason he's not been able to be who we know he can be is because of injury. We can all relay that message that, well, his injury has, of course, affected this team. But when he's not out there, it is still inexcusable for the defense to be as bad as it's been without him out there. Now, in fairness, he was out there for Ole Miss and we got torched. But the truth is, it's gotten way worse without him out there. So those are the big three players. Harold Perkins wearing number 7, Garrett Nussmeier wearing number 18, and then, of course, Whit Weeks also being a captain. So Garrett and Whit were the captains. Harold Perkins, of course, was the number 7. And look, it is amazing how quickly a college football season can change. Because after week 1, all 3 of them were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. But the stars of the team are all players that were not on the team last year. The only guy that was on the team last year that is exceeding expectations this year is Trey Green. That's it. Everyone else is a first-year player. And that's just not good enough. It's just not good enough for LSU. So, in many ways, a lot of it is Brian Kelly's fault. It could be that the number and captain tradition is cursed. I don't know what it is. But I tweeted this out earlier. When you look at the thumbnail image, which is a photo of those 3 in front of Tiger Stadium when we announced that they were going to be the big 3, Witt and Garrett as captains and Harold Perkins as the number 7. And once again, this isn't a criticism of Witt in particular. It's not necessarily a criticism of any of them. It's just you are only going to go as far as your best players will take you. Okay? So, Alexander brings up PJ Woodland. I agree with that. He's exceeded expectations. Okay? So, we shall see what happens. Another thing that Andy brings up, best thing LSU has going for him this week is Alabama's quarterback can't run like the other quarterbacks that we've gone against. All right? Now, next thing. I do want to talk about everything that transpired today. All right? I buried the lead because I didn't want to lead off with more political drama. So, Wade Roos was announced as the president. We had our guest on, Piper Hutchinson, and honestly, this is a shock to me. This is a really big shock that it seems that she is the only reporter that is reporting this, that's actually covering this. That's why I wanted to have her on. And it's also tough because she is the only person that is tweeting out these quotes. I don't understand why there aren't more reporters at these press scrums, which is crazy to me. And it is also crazy to me that in some of those quotes, now I haven't been able to listen to the interview that just happened with WWL, but Wade Roos said to her that Wade Roos, did not know about Verge Osbury's Title IX situation from a few years ago. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Now, I didn't get to hear it. It was just a tweeted out quote from our guest last night, which changes a lot of what I had to say and what she had to say. And then there was a kerfuffle about the interim tag and if Verge Osbury actually is the full-time athletic director. All right. So what we'll do, and I feel like it is very important to be fair in this, okay? We need to tweet out the full quotes. And we need to show you the full quotes from Wade Roos's latest interview with WWL, where he clarified a few of these things. Okay? So this is via Wilson Alexander. LSU president on WWL FM confirms that Verge Osbury has his full authority to go find us a coach. He confirmed he removed the interim tag, but he also called Osbury the acting athletic director. He was not pressed on the permanence of that title. All right. So, some of this will get chalked up as semantics, right? But it is important when discussing this that the titles of everybody involved in this is correctly labeled, right? So we know that Wade Roos is the president, but the acting athletic director is different than the permanent athletic director. I might be wrong on this, all right? I'm not the smartest person. I graduated with a 2.7 in journalism, okay? But, I'm probably the lowest Manship graduate GPA of all time, okay? Let's go to Ross Dellinger's quote, which is basically the same thing. And, well, once again, I haven't been able to listen to the interview. Preston Guy will be joining us here in just a moment. So last night, we were celebrating alignment. We're celebrating Verge Osbury. But now we're not aligned. Okay? We are not aligned. I do think it'll eventually get sorted out. But at this juncture, there's always going to be something new that pops up. And like last night, I was like, okay, let's just get into the search. Let's just get into the search. And like we have said, a lot of these little daily things will eventually blow over. But there's always something. There's always something. Okay. So, do I think Verge is a permanent athletic director? Yes, I do. But I cannot say with a gazillion percent that it's a fact until I see LSU tweet out an official graphic at this point. Because look, this is just a good rule of thumb. The national insiders, like Pete Thamel, Ross Dellinger, they are rarely wrong. They are rarely wrong. And part of why a lot of local media, and I'm guilty of this as well, but a lot of local media, they will have a story and not actually report it until somebody national does, in fear of them getting it wrong and burning a source or whatever. And that the national guys are normally correct. All right. Because the national guys have a lot to lose if they get something wrong. So all the national guys tweeted this out yesterday, that Verge is the guy. I think he's the guy. But I am not holding my breath. I am not going to say with a gazillion percent certainty either or until there's another press conference, them announcing Verge, or if there is an actual release. Okay. So, that's where we are. Now, something else that was brought up yesterday in our interview with Piper, and she did another interview with Kari Johnson. I think that's how you pronounce his first name. I'm butchering it. About if Roos was, the most qualified candidate. I am not qualified enough and know enough about presidents and if they were professors or anything like that. But there is a growing sentiment from people that are at LSU and live in Baton Rouge and are around LSU, and this is from people of all political backgrounds, that this could have been more transparent. And that was something else that Piper brought up yesterday. So we'll talk to Preston Guy. Preston is smarter at this stuff than I am here in just a moment at 6:30. But I will tell you this. I am getting very frustrated. And you should be too. You should be too. Because while this small stuff and these tags and all of this will blow over, especially if we actually do hire the coach that we want, there are cracks. Okay. And you, as an LSU fan, should still be worried. You should. I will never not shoot you straight. I won't. All right. But yes, you should be very, very concerned. And look, people that have voted for Landry, one privately who went to a campaign event, who's a friend of the channel, he messaged me earlier today that he's very concerned. He knows Jeff. Okay. So we'll see. I'll cross my fingers that the governor's choices will lead us in the right direction, and that our search committee, which will be led by Verge, but Roos is part of it as well. And Roos, of course, is Verge's boss. But, at this point, we need to just let Verge cook. We do. Okay. Now, I will say, I myself am not a female. All right. News alert. But I do think if you are male, it is important to understand that whether you're a male or female, to be honest, that this Title IX stuff is serious. This is a very, very serious conversation that needs to be had about what has happened in the past. And a very serious conversation needs to be had about the actual athletic director search. I do think it's something that the Georgia athletic director issued a statement that he was going to stay at Georgia. So that lets me think that there was some kind of pursuit of him. There was other names mixed in there, the Florida State athletic director and so on and so on. But you should question how much deliberation was there to begin with the athletic director search. So I trust Verge. Verge knows ball. He has very great mentors, which, as Verge brought up yesterday in a great interview with Matt Moscona, that we led the show with, to be honest, this clip, that Nick Saban has given him pointers about what you need to have as a coach in the modern day. He also cleared up that Nick Saban will not be LSU's next coach. But I will tell you, the one thing that, even though Brian Kelly didn't work out, the last coaching search under Scott Woodward was at least organized, right? There weren't as many tentacles involved. And right now there's a lot of those. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to get to, because obviously our guest is going to mostly speak about what has transpired in the last week. I do want to talk about the college football playoff and the future of LSU football with the playoff. So last night, the first two teams out of the field were Texas and Oklahoma, despite both of them being ranked higher than Virginia, that would be in the field with the one ACC representative and the 12-team playoff. Now, look, it would be better for LSU if there wasn't an at-large bid given to someone that is not a that actually is a Power 4 school and doesn't play a soft schedule like an ACC team does. I do think one thing the ACC must do is go to a 9-game conference schedule, which I think they are. But actually, I'm pretty sure they are. I will say, even though I am staunchly in favor of a group of 5 school always getting a seat at the table, and I'm staunchly in favor of a Big 12 school and an ACC school always getting a seat in the college football playoff, it behooves you as an LSU fan that it's just the 16 best teams, which will be the case here in a few years. It's just too much money for them to not go to 16. All right. Verge said that LSU, and look, I am always weary of new hires and new candidates for speaking a big game. All right, so Brian Kelly said, judge me in year 3. And, well, we saw what happened in year 3. It was his worst season, his worst full season at LSU. Verge at his press conference said, hey, LSU should be in the college football playoff every single season. All right, so if you're going to say that, well, it would help LSU in a major way if you were to get rid of the automatic qualifiers when it comes to the college football playoff. I will say also that if the playoff, when it inevitably goes to 16 teams, you should be able to make it every year. I would like to think LSU can be a top 16 team 3 out of every 4 seasons. I will let you slide one season not being a top 16 team. Okay? Now let's get to some of your comments. I'm done ranting. Let's go to Kareem. I hate to say this, but LSU is going to get blown out by at least 21 points. Let's go to Sibley. All universities are distinguished in their own right. This is another level for him, and he has to adjust. Okay. Pegasus says you can have auto bids, but not auto buys. Okay. Let's go to Kareem. Actually, we just went to Kareem. Chef says, is Roos someone that's not smart? I'm not going to call him that. He's my new president. I hardly know the guy. I'm not going to call him that word. The M word. That is that is equated with stupid. Shouldn't call people names. Beside Jamie. Ellie Mom, can you not hear anything? Good to see you. Tony the Tiger. Lots of females in the PHL Nation. Talked to Sherry Berry a little bit earlier. How would a 16-team college football playoff work? Any buys? Yeah, there would be. I think they would. I don't know. I don't think there'd be any buys. I'm not sure, though, in a 16-teamer, if the teams in the first round would want to buy. You could do a play-in for the 16 field, which would then be a 20 team. Okay. But yes, I will say you should be very concerned about LSU in many ways. And look, sometimes you're going to have these seasons where everything is just cursed. All right, everything's cursed. It's not just this. Joe Burrow's hurt. Malik Neighbors hurt. Jaden Daniels hurt. Brian Thomas having a tough season. Jack Besh has hardly played. I mean, I'm just going with the young LSU Tigers. Mason Taylor is on the Jets. He's actually been good. Will's actually been good. But there's a lot of LSU players that have had it tough. I did learn today, though. This is breaking news. All right, let's see. Do I have a breaking news sounder? Round of applause for Odell Beckham Jr. Because I learned today that his teeth work to get diamonds in his teeth cost $1.8 million. I wish I had enough money to restructure my teeth for $1.8 million. $1.8 million. Crazy. Now, next thing involving LSU football, I want to get back to the Alabama game where the point spread opened at 7, is now up to 10 at a lot of books. 10. What does that mean? A lot of line movement in favor of Alabama. They are not trusting Frank Wilson. They are not trusting this offensive line. Whit Weeks is doubtful. And it could get ugly. It could get very ugly. But there are plenty of instances where LSU has gone into these types of games where the season is gone, and out of nowhere, they put up a Herculean effort versus a college football playoff laden team later in the season. All right, so 2020 Florida, LSU, 22-point underdogs. They go in there and, of course, win the Fog shoot-throw game. 2021 Alabama, huge underdogs. We get in a dogfight with Bryce Young. Neil Farrell played a whale of a game, and we were right there in it at the end. So there have been instances where LSU has been in this spot before, and we feel like we can pull off an upset, a wild upset. I'm not quite there, though. I'm just not there. And I'm still leaning towards Alabama taking care of business and beating us by double digits. Okay? So, look, I hope LSU proves me wrong. I really, really, really do. I think this Alabama team is very good. I was really high on Alabama before the season. I had them in my national championship game before the season. And, of course, I looked terrible after Florida State, but I was really high on that wide receiver room, and I did not think Ty Simpson would be this good, but, and I hate Alabama. You hate Alabama. But as much as I will miss playing them every year, I will not miss the conversation of people considering this a real rivalry, because it's not. They have kicked our asses. All right. Buck Fama all day long. We even covered the stick your finger in the booty controversy yesterday. I covered it on 2 different shows. All those different things. It is so important to understand that this has been a game where they have kicked our asses. With equal time to prepare, too. With the bye week. They have kicked our asses. So I will tell you this. I know a lot of you aren't into the morality victories or anything like that. Okay? I would take a semi-moral victory from Frank Wilson if he's able to keep this respectable and that we are not blown off the field. Okay? Because no one actually thinks we're going to win. No one in the chat actually thinks we're going to win. Actually, I say that. Our poll question's up. I was curious. 54% of you picked Alabama to beat us. So, I hope all 54% of us are wrong. I really do. I really, really, really do. Now, next thing involving this search, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on some of my thoughts on this, but one thing that kind of irked me, even though I love the LSU brand, I love the fact that when the baseball team went to meet with President Trump, I like the fact that Louisiana State University Shreveport got to meet the president and all that. All right. I thought that was cool. I thought that both schools were able to be there under the LSU umbrella. I also like the fact that, Dutton will be involved in this. So let me make sure I'm getting his name correctly. Jim Dalton. I said Dutton, excuse me. For you Yellowstone fans out there. Congrats to Jim Dalton, who was a part of the presidential search. He'll work alongside President Bruce and a lot of the academic stuff involving that. A lot of that's over my head. I can't break it down. You can listen to our interview yesterday. But as much as I love the LSU brand, it is amazing how many messages I got today about this UNO privateers stuff. All right. I don't know enough about it. I vaguely saw it on Twitter. But basically, the privateers could turn into the LSU privateers or whatever it may be. I just don't really care. As much as I would like an LSU presence to be in the 504, it's not necessary. I mean, there is quite literally bigger fish to fry for me. Okay. It just seems like we're trying to do a lot of stuff at once when we need to worry about what actually is happening on the 225. We need to be worried about what's happening at Tiger Stadium and everything surrounding it, from Nicholson to Dalrymple. I am not worried about that. Okay? I'm just not. Okay? Now, coming up next, we'll talk to our guest. He said something. He texted something to me a little bit earlier today, Mr. Preston Guy, that had me very interested to talk to him today. Are you missing that sweet swing? If pain is holding your golf game back, you must check out the full simulator at the Lafayette location of Laborde Therapy Center. Yes, Chase and his team built this simulator to go along with a full set of programs catered to your needs. Yes, this entire team at Laborde Therapy worked hard to fix that back, your elbow, shoulders, wrists, knees, toes. It doesn't matter. At their Lafayette location, 337-981-4053. Call today. But what if you don't golf? And what if you don't live in Lafayette? No problem. They fix anything therapy related. Book today, labortherapy.com, with locations in Carencro, Youngsville, Morgan City, and Crowley. Labortherapy.com. PHL Nation, it's time to lock in and get serious really quickly with our friends at Fortified Gulf Coast and FortifiedGulf.com. This is my buddy Ramey. He is one of many Fortified Gulf Coast inspection professionals that are doing something to help you not only save your home, but your memories.
The Fortified program got started about 13 years ago. We adopted it here in New Orleans about 2.5 years ago. It's a more advanced way of doing the roof. It adds an extra layer of protection, whereas even if a hurricane was to pull the shingles off this roof, water will still not get into the house.
So yes, your establishment is important, but what about the things you can't replace? That family scrapbook or that painting that's been handed down from Meemaw to Papaw and to you. It is important to protect that today with Fortified Roofing. And while this seems like a priceless asset, did you know it can actually save you on your homeowner's insurance up to 37% if you are in South Louisiana? Just call the number 504-444-7563. That's 504-444-7563, or visit fortifiedgulf.com. That's FORTIFIEDGULF.com. Let's go. All righty, the best follow on Twitter. I say it all the time. Mr. Preston Guy joins us. Preston, you've been vocal today.
Not as vocal as the incompetent administration of Louisiana State Universal, but yeah, I sure have.
All right. What's on your mind, man?
Man, it is it's like you got to stop shooting yourself in the damn foot. You just got to. I mean, here's the deal, man. There's things that coaches admire about jobs, and LSU has most of those. But one of the very important values that a coach is looking for when he's going into a program, stability. And LSU is like an F minus in that respect right now. Now, you can earn that stability back, but anytime you have no AD, no president, no coach, you need to quickly work to rectify these things and then make comments to protect the brand. Unfortunately, the governor running his mouth, I let Donald Trump make the hire before I let him make the hire. That's going to go viral. You're going to be made a mockery, right? He knew that when he said it. That's why he said it, because this governor likes viral attention moments. But that's breaking the first rule of college athletics. Carter, the number one rule, protect the brand. You're doing big harm to the job when you say things like that. Then you're going to bash your AD while he's your sitting AD. You don't handle things like that. You don't throw an AD under the bus before he's actually gone, okay? You wait, okay? Then they fire him the next day unceremoniously. We're complaining about $53.3 million as a buyout that LSU can't afford. You're just going to throw $6.8 million on top of that. Okay, great. I guess money isn't really that big of a problem then, I guess, if you're just going to increase it by 15% like it's nothing. Then you bring in Verge, and they actually made a really good move, in my opinion, by not necessarily promoting Verge, but promoting someone to full-time AD. Because here's the deal about hiring a coach. We talked about stability. They want someone who's going to be the full-time athletic director. Carter, if I hire someone and then 2 weeks later I'm out of there, how much job security have they lost? Like half of it. A lot. Because the guy who wants to prove himself correct is gone. And the guy who's looking to say, I can do things differently and I haven't used my own agenda and things I do matter, he's in and he's looking to get rid of you. By the way, that's a big part of why Orgeron got fired less than basically 1.2 seasons after assembling the greatest team of all time, because he didn't get a full season after COVID and all that going down. I understand it was a 500 football team. He went 11-11. I understand what that means at LSU, but I'm just saying a big part of that was because Woodward didn't hire Orgeron, and Woodward was looking to say, I can do things differently. I can do this. So anyways, so you get that stability. Then the president, Wade Roos, second day on the job, right? Not even starting until the 17th officially. And he's getting asked by Piper Hutchinson, Well, did you know about Verge Osbury's Title IX involvement? And what does he say? Oh, well, I don't have that information yet. I've only had the job for 8 hours. I hadn't had a chance. Well, why did you name him the full-time AD if you didn't have that information? Have you done no research or digging into? These are major moves. This is a massive move to just name an athletic director. You didn't do any research. You just don't know what you're talking about, or were more likely were you just instructed that's what you have to do? Okay. And he's just like, well, we'll decide if we remove the interim tag or we not remove the interim tag. We'll see. What does that mean? I don't even know what permanent means versus removing interim. You don't know? You don't know what interim means? You're an educator. You run the flagship university of the state. You don't know what interim means? Have you been on ChatGPT, sir? And by the way, you don't know what that means for the stability of hiring a head football coach at a top 5. But your words, best job in America, you don't know what that means for the stability and how that impacts you being able to hire. So he goes on Louisiana radio again tonight and said, no, he is the full-time AD. He is. But earlier he said, we'll figure out what to do with him down the road. Dude, this is a PR nightmare. Who the flip trained you? You're damaging the brand. You're making it difficult to operate. You're out in LSU right now. The job opening for LSU, by the way, it's a competitive market. There's 3 other jobs.
Yeah,
LSU, they're tier 1 jobs I consider. Now I think some of them, there's different parts. Like Auburn, I consider one of the lower tier 1 jobs, but it's an elite tier 1 job. Okay, their job that's good enough where if you don't take care of things, someone might pick Auburn over you. For sure. Okay. LSU right now, the job opening is like the hot girl looking for a prom date, but she's got a big, ugly pimple right in the middle of her face. And you know what? Catherine over there is pretty cute too. And Catherine, she might offer me $12.5 million. Maybe I don't get the 5-star athletes that just grow on trees in Louisiana. Certainly, 3 of the last 4 have won championships there, but Urban Meyer won 2 at Florida. Maybe that's the girl to take the. You got a big, fat, ugly pimple. And guess what? Instead of going home and getting some facial care, cleansing your face off, and you're eating junk food, pizza, greasing up your face, and you're just getting more and more pimples, big, ugly pimples. And now you're the hot girl with a pizza face. That's what LSU is right now. And you got to clean up your image soon, or this isn't going to go very well. Coaches, and I know for a fact, if I could tell you the things I knew directly, I know for a fact there are people who you may or may not want to take this job who are laughing at you right now, who are calling you a dumpster fire, a shit show. And LSU's got to do something to rebound from this. Verge Osbury, he is the voice of stability right now. It's like you have to revoke every administrator and public official's speaking rights until you get this right, because right now, every word that comes out of these stupid, incompetent administrators. By the way, this administrator, Wade Roos, doesn't fit the criteria that LSU wrote down looking for this position. Now, I'm no public university professional. I don't know higher education and all that, but I do know people who are, and they've outlined, okay, he has no R1, basically there's 4 quads of research universities. He has no tier 1 research institution experience, and he hasn't fulfilled all the roles. He's never been a full-time professor, which was something outlined on the
we had
job
Piper
listing. So
Hutchinson on. We had Piper on yesterday, and she some of that.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily, I'm a football guy. I don't necessarily understand that, but the fact that he is literally not even meeting the required qualifications on the job application, then he's going out running his mouth. This looks like gross incompetence. This looks like a really bad situation. Now, go prove me wrong. That's all I got to say. Go make this stupid reporter look like a stupid reporter. Go out and hire a great coach and go win some football games. But right now, dude, you got to stop.
Yeah, and to your point, and I want to share this. Preston's a PR professional, or you have a PR background. I actually hired you for a pretty big explosive situation where I was in the right. You consulted me there, so you're very passionate about PR stuff. It's nuts to me because last night you had everything go your way after the Verge situation. You had the national guys. You had Josh Pate tweeting out alignment with the
Right. That was right.
So you had the voice of college football saying alignment. Then this happens today. So here's the thing, Preston, is that what I would do is just shut up.
Just shut up.
Just shut up. Just shut up. But it's something new every day.
Stop talking. You're too imbecilic to speak. I'm sorry. And that goes for the governor too. Stop talking about LSU football. You don't even know the BCS died 13 years ago.
You don't?
Just stop. Let the grown-ups handle this. Verge is at least a grown-up. You could comment whether you like or dislike it. I like that they went and named a permanent AD because they needed a permanent AD before they hired this coach. It was going to cost you the ability to bring in a good coach and negotiate a better salary if you didn't do that.
Right.
But now you kind of just throw all that away with one imbecile not knowing how to handle. Dodge a question, man. Be a politician. Dodge a question. Just say, oh, well, I mean, we've got our people looking into that, and I promise you, if anything comes up of it, we will handle it to the utmost dignity and scrutiny. Just say a bunch of nothing.
This is a serious matter, and we'll further discuss this at a later moment or something like that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And these are very serious things. People are going to feel viscerally about it one way or the other. Just dodge. Give some just man.
Yeah, and in many ways, it's if, and a lot of people do feel very strongly about this angle of the Verge Osbury hire. That wouldn't, if you do, and look, like I said, a lot of people do, and rightfully so. That would fire me up even more. If the president didn't even acknowledge it's the guy that is the one that hires the athletic director. And to go even one step further, to the point that you made about Verge being the guy, you do not want the AD to be hired after the football coach. I have seen this happen at SEC schools where it backfires. It never works out. For instance, Arkansas under Chad Morris, that exact thing happened. And that was the worst coach in the history of the Southeastern Conference. So, Preston, what outside of being quiet, what else would you advise the LSU brass to do now?
Well, get prepared and go out and try to get the best coach you can possibly get. Use your history and see what kind of hires typically work. I mean, do your homework. Shut your mouth, do your homework. And by the way, prepare a sales pitch. Go out and find someone you want. Do not take no for an answer. Be bulldogs about this. And then once you've identified your guy, don't just let him take the job because he gets this just gaudy, fully guaranteed contract. I'm sorry, but a lot of people are extrinsically motivated, meaning they're motivated not from within a burning desire to win a championship. They're motivated by financial compensation. And I do believe part of the issue with Brian Kelly is he knew all he had to do was sign the dotted line and he's going to get generational wealth, right? So names that stand out to me, make sure you get a guy who wants to be here, pay him handsomely, give him good incentives. Don't give him this stupid buyout where you're going to be just handsomely rewarded for failure. Make sure if you want to come here, guess what? You're going to win. We're here to lock in and win championships, and we're going to hold you accountable. How accountable can you hold a person when you're 90% guaranteeing their compensation no matter what they do?
Well, that's what the NBA contracts are.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's silly. By the way, I think if we're going to get political and talk about, I think national federal legislation needs to come in to prohibit educational institutions from paying too much money to these guy. It's disgusting to see educational institutions responsible for tens of millions of dollars for someone who failed as a coach and gets to go do nothing for, basically half a decade now. It's just, it's grossly irresponsible. So if you're going to get politicians involved, that's the kind of stuff they need to be talking about. And sure, I do like some of what Jeff Landry said about conflicts of interest, but by the way, you probably don't want to be dogging the agents who your university is about to have to go negotiate with to bring in. So anyways, I think about names like Joe Brady, who obviously a very respected offensive mind, right? But does he actually want the job at LSU? Is he full NFL guy, right? He might look at an NFL coordinator job as better, but he's going to say, Jesus, man, you're going to pay me $90 million whether I win or lose? All I have to do is sign the dotted line and I've got it made. I don't have to actually want this opportunity. I don't have to actually have that dog in me. I don't have to actually go win a championship. All I have to do is sign the dotted line. Go through the motions. Just don't sleep with any co-eds. Boom. My kids, my grandkids are going to be sleeping in mansions. That's what has happened. So that's the kind of situation why I really don't want this just gaudy, huge guaranteed contract.
Okay. So you would need to do that to get Lane Kiffin here. So you're out on it.
Sure. Well, here's the deal. Either Lane wants the job or he wants the money. I don't want Lane Kiffin if he's coming for a giant guarantee. Now, pay Lane Kiffin handsomely if he wants to come. Say, hey man, look, we know they're going to give you $13.5 million. Here's 13.75, but it's going to be like 30% guaranteed. You know what I mean? Like you're going to make just a paltry, $3.5 million. By the way, these coaches, they care more about where they rank in terms of pay than actual how much money they want. And Lane Kiffin has said, I don't make decisions regarding money. All right, great. This ain't about money. Great. This is your words, not mine. Look, we'll give you $3.5 million if you get fired. You'll be plenty secure for the remainder of your contract. You won't have to go hungry. Landry and Witt will be eating just fine. But you know what? We're not going to hold our institution just liable for this just disgusting sum of money. Come here, and if you want to bet on yourself and go win something special, come do it. We'll have a heavily incentive-laden contract, and you'll make plenty of money as long as you're not losing football games. I don't know necessarily. I'd have trouble thinking of a name other than Nikolai Saban, who I'd be like, yeah, no, just give him what he wants.
Right. Yeah. What are you hearing about the job? Are you hearing anything about any candidates that are interested?
I mean, do you think this administration has their act together where they've actually reached out to somebody and offered? I mean, come on. The answer is no. But I do know that there's a lot of people who know they're going to be on that board and are keeping things open intentionally to hear what they have to say. For example, I know Lane Kiffin has an extension that's been sent to him and he hasn't signed it yet because he's just waiting. And it's not just LSU for Lane Kiffin. Make no mistake. Hey, everybody's coming for Lane Kiffin, right? But there's tons of guys like that. But no, I don't think they've actually reached out or identified to people. I will tell you who I think their first three calls should be, and I think all three will be no is the answer. But you're going to call Lane, you call Nick Saban, a 0.1% chance he'll say yes or even answer the phone call. Then you're going to call Dan Lanning. We'll go to 1% that he'll say yes. Okay. By the way, Dan Lanning, huge buyout situation. And then third, I'd call Lane Kiffin, another huge buyout situation. But I think you're going to strike out on all three. Probably each one is 10 times more likely than the previous one. I'd put Lane Kiffin at a 10% chance to land him at this point, but that's at least like an actual conversation. That's not like laugh you out of the room.
Okay. So let's go into some deeper cut names that are on Preston's list.
Okay. Eli Drinkwitz might be the next name I go for. And I think that's where you start to get in the realm of more likely than not that they come, right? I like John Sumrall, although I did not like what he did against UTSA the other night, really late.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if that one result changes.
I get it. But he is a proven winner. Won a lot of football games at Tulane and Troy. Let's see here. I do like Joe Brady. I do like Kelvin Shepherd. Okay. I do like Something I tweeted out that actually kind of popped off, went a little more viral. I've been seeing a bunch of news stories across the country pick this up. Glenn Schumann. Okay, talk about a coordinator. Okay, and I understand what having no head coaching experience, what that means, but elite programs have hired coordinators and had success. Look at Marcus Freeman right now. Look at Ryan Day. Look at what Oklahoma did with Lincoln Riley. Look at what Oklahoma did with Bob Stoops. The track record of hire a coordinator who's elite and give him the elite Power 5 job and see if he's the next whiz kid up and coming, that has a track record of working. Now, sometimes it doesn't, especially when you start looking at these like Saban coordinators, right? A lot of times it's just Nick Saban giving them a bunch of 5-star talent, carrying these guys to success. I think about like Jim McElwain didn't work out, right? He was, Alabama. I think he was Alabama OC. Then he went to Colorado State, then Florida, and we saw how that worked out. So it's not foolproof, don't get me wrong, but it is something. Glenn Schumann's a guy who's 35 years old, defensive coordinator for Georgia. As his time as an assistant, he's won 6 championships at Alabama and Georgia. The man knows nothing but championship football. You talk about a man who could build. There's no one who knows winning culture better than him, you could argue. Okay, no one attainable, at least. Look at Dan Lanning, what he's doing. He was DC at Georgia, and look what he's doing with Oregon. I mean, look, if you were to hire Dan Lanning right now, you buckle in, you're winning multiple championships. Like, that'd be a grand slam. So who's to say that, now Oregon's going to reap the benefit of being bold and making that hire, right? So anyways, guys like that, I do like. There's a bunch of other names that I actually do like, could do a good job. But we'll see. Another hot take I have. This might be my most unpopular opinion.
Scorch it.
Don't let timing dictate who you hire. Okay. I've heard people freak out about the portal. I've heard people freak out about your coaching changes. I've heard people freak out about signing day. Brother, don't let a couple dozen kids determine the future of your program. Go hire the right man. Another thing about this is that, 4 years ago, it was a lot more likely to get a good coach that wasn't in the playoffs. 4 years ago, in a 12-team playoff, Notre Dame's heading to the playoffs, by the way, and Brian Kelly would be off your table using this same criteria. I'm just saying.
Right.
Now there's 12 teams in the playoffs, which means highly likely if you're going to hire a coach, he's probably helping. If he's a good coach, he's probably helping their team go to the playoffs, whether that's NFL or college. And guess what? Both of those timetables don't line up with yours. Hey, brother, you got Frank Wilson. Dude makes what, 1.5 a year? Go work that portal, Frank. You're still on payroll. Go to work, Austin Thomas. You got NIL funds. Go get the kids who want to be here, and we're going to take it on the freaking chin next year, man, with the right man leading the program. You might get your ass kicked, but at least you're going to get your ass kicked with some dignity, knowing that you do have the right man at top, and once he gets his time, he'll build this sucker back.
Yeah, I do think, though, that Verge being hired does help Frank's case to actually being the guy.
Sure it does. Strong connection. I would argue that would be a very underwhelming hire.
I'm with you. Yeah. I
mean, we're talking about a guy who, between his time at McNeese and UTSA, didn't have a single winning season, I don't know how I frame that as anything but disappointing.
Yeah, but if he magically goes 4-0.
Sure, if he goes 4-0, let's have a new conversation. No doubt.
Right. And I'll also say, like, popularity-wise, it would be probably the single most popular move, short of Kelvin Shepherd or Tyrann Mathieu, if
among the players?
And former players, if Frank is a guy.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, a lot of people very, very, very close to the program would like him because they like him personally. I get it. I'm just telling you from an analytical standpoint, that would be a pretty.
It's tough. No, it's a tough sell.
Look, let's talk about he's going 2-2 at best. He's going to go 2-2 at best. I mean,
yeah, it's the most logical.
You're not. I mean, in Arkansas, by the way, is going to play you tough too. By the way.
Yeah, I mean that's their Super Bowl. Preston Guy, our guest. Few more for you. I go back to the thumbnail image, and I've been trying, and I do this because I do a lot of live stream solo, and I try and keep the guests that really push my opinions to the max, and you're one of them. Where I have struggled is trying to fully push back on how much blame I have put at Brian Kelly's feet, right? I have been so critical of him. And whenever I am so critical of him or DJ Chester or Garrett, anyone that I've gone on long rants about, I've tried to argue the opposite, right? So now that Brian Kelly is gone, how much blame do you put at his feet for everything that has transpired this year?
I mean, Carter, it's been 4 years. Your program is a reflection of yourself after 4 years. What
Right.
excuse do you need? I mean, was LSU not a program with top 12 resources?
This year in particular, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, 100% of the blame goes at Kelly. The buck stops here, my friend. I mean, it's
Oh,
all
you're
on
putting a full hundo on him?
100. Yeah, if I could go
Are
higher.
you gonna you're putting a full,
Carter, you're the head football coach. Every person in that building you placed there, or you placed the person who placed there, it is 100% built in Brian Kelly's image after 4 years. And this is what you got. And he had ample resources to build something better. By the way, in Louisiana, every once in a while, the stars align, baby, and you just get this just juggernaut team that you really didn't have to do anything for. And guess what? Those stars aligned, okay? Those stars aligned in a big way. You got Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, that 2023 offense. All you have to do is field not the worst defense ever, just
Right.
an average defense, and you shit the bed. You fielded no. I mean, look, the day I say that a fourth-year head coach isn't 100% to blame is the day I stop being a man and holding the guy in charge accountable. Okay? If I'm running something, I'm the boss. I pick the people to do the jobs. You're held accountable. Of course it's 100% Brian Kelly's fault why things have gone the way they've gone. And I don't think, I would hope if he's worth his salt, he wouldn't, but unless there's something going on that I just was woefully unaware of, like administration. Like, I'll tell you this, Ogeron probably doesn't 100% blame himself for what happened at the end of his tenure, because frankly, he probably looks at it as, well, you know, I botched that there Bopolini hire, but then I went to go hire a new coach. They gave me $900,000, no buyout.
Your Coach O needs work, but
Okay, well, you know, Coach O needs some work too, apparently. But anyways, you know,
oh my God.
well, he's out there begging for the LSU job back, so he needs the work too. Look, you know, that kind of stuff. There was no such inhibition that Brian Kelly was faced with. He had every ample resource he wanted to hire whoever wanted. He decided to hire Joe Sloan. He decided to keep him even after the Bryce Underwood debacle. He decided to bring in Matt House. He decided to let go of Blake Baker and Corey Raymond just to hire them back at twice the pay 2 years later after having a horrid debacle of a defense that cost you a championship. There's a banner that belongs in LSU Stadium right now, and it's in Ann Arbor instead. I mean, really, that's what you had. So, yeah, no, I mean, who the hell else would you blame other than the guy in charge of everything?
Yeah,
The
I
buck
was just
here.
for me, I'm still on Kelly's neck for everything that went wrong. But that's why I had you on here. I was like, well, am I putting too much at his
Here's what I'll say. Kelly did some things well. He's not like the worst football coach that's ever been assembled. But that being said, he had a lot of flaws. He lacked energy in certain places, and the program was a reflection of who he is as a coach. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But when we talk about blame, I mean, the day you think the guy in charge isn't, I mean, just turn in your man card. You know what I mean? Like, accountability is everything.
Preston Guy, our guest. LSU, Alabama, what will transpire?
Oh, boy. You know, Carter, I think the team will play with a lot more energy and vigor. That tends to happen when you go to an interim coach, right? That being said, I don't know if it's. I'll be very impressed if they keep this within one score. I'll be very impressed. I think that's a very good job that Frank Wilson's done. If he looks competitive at the least bit, I think this is a tall task, and I don't think that just motivating your team better is going to make your left tackle better at pass sets. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is, and Whit Weeks is still out, and you've seen what's happened to this team when Whit Weeks is out of commission. They don't perform very well. So I think they have a tall task ahead of them in Tuscaloosa.
So it's going to be a blowout.
It'll be a game that'll be tough to be competitive.
I'm leaning 31-13, Bama. That's about where I am.
Somewhere around there. That's fine. Yeah.
I will say, though, that some of these victories at the end of some lost LSU seasons, like a top 3 happy victory for me was LSU beating Alabama in 2020. I will never, ever, ever.
Wait. Oh, 2020?
Yes, that is a
LSU.
top 3.
LSU beating Bama in
no, beating Florida. Excuse me.
Florida.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, that was a fun game for sure.
But I also go back to LSU and Alabama in 2021, where LSU played them close out of nowhere, and then I think about Kalen DeBoer. All right, so you've taken a lot of blowback for your Alabama prediction. Part of that was on me, but you did have that 1 week. You did have that 1 week where you looked astute, amazingly smart. You could have that week again if Alabama loses this one, because here's a knock on Kalen DeBoer. He can play down to competition.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
He could definitely do that. So I could see that happening here, where we're so hyper-focused on LSU and how bad they are. Well, Alabama played down to South Carolina. You could see it. You could Kalen DeBoer teams can play down more than anyone else. So we shall see, man. We shall see. Preston Guy, check him out, tigerbait.com. Get yourself a membership with Mr. Mike Scarborough and all that good stuff. And most importantly, follow him. You're one of a few LSU accounts that are still on my alerts. Okay.
God bless you for that, because I tweet a lot of dumb stuff.
Oh, yeah. You do. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, all of it's dumb. You, Jacques Doucet, and Wilson Alexander are the 3 LSU accounts that I know every time they tweet something, it's going to be some good stuff. So there you go. Well, I appreciate you, PJ. We'll talk soon, brother.
Who pops off your notifications the most?
Oh, out of those 3?
Yeah. Which one gives you the most
you, because you have more opinions.
Yes.
And then obviously Wilson just tweets out LSU news.
Yeah.
And then
right.
Jacques my guy. I'm always going to support Jacques, but Jacques also really good at keeping things LSU. And by the way, I have no opposition against people having opinions on other stuff, but for my LSU alerts, you 3 are always money. You 3 all deserve raises.
I'll let Mike know.
Yeah, please tell him. But yeah, man, we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Preston Guy, go follow him. Blow his YouTube up. He told me earlier today, he was like, "Hey, can I curse on your show?" Yeah, you can. I try to keep the cursing down, not only here but in our Discord. And one of our big Discord experts, he dropped an F-bomb in there, and I'm like, "Hey, only on the weekends. You'll only get F-bombs on me when it's something truly crazy happening in LSU, which would apply here, or if it's a game." And I'll be honest, I used to, when I was at SiriusXM, my first jobs were actually on shows that were political, sports with politics mixed in there. Okay. For one day, I produced James Carville's radio show, and James would be remote, and Luke Russert, the son of Tim Russert, would be on site. Now, I produced another sports and politics show mixed in there, and yeah, it's not really my thing. But I'll be honest, I love talking about stuff that pushes me as a host, and I like it when I have people on here that have strong opinions. Right? We have had two different, well-respected media members on the show in the last 24 to 48. I myself have taken heat for some of the things I've said about Governor Landry. Preston has. Piper's not an opinion person, but she, reports the news. She was the one that had those quotes from earlier today. And the truth is, it's important to be bold. It's important for you to speak up for LSU. It's important for you to have an outlet like this one where we allow people with different backgrounds and different opinions. And there are things in everything that we do that we consider to be an escape, which LSU football and this channel is an escape from your everyday lives. It's my job, but it's an escape from your everyday lives. You just want to see football breakdowns. I did my typical football film study, LSU Alabama preview. You could see it for yourself. But the truth is, this stuff is very important. And if I were advising Jeff Landry and all the new hires at LSU, now is the time to be very vague and quiet about stuff. Okay? Once again, things will blow over so quickly in this media environment. And I said the same thing yesterday, but I'm not going to say it again after tonight until we can keep our mouths shut for a certain period of time. People move on to the next thing. The problem, though, is when new things pop up, it becomes so big to not notice how big of a disaster it's been. And that's the thing. There has been so many mind-blowingly new things that pop up regarding this entire ordeal. All right? Like, mind-blowingly, how is this even a thing? Okay? I did not know the LSU UNO thing. But apparently it's a thing. We would have all thought that the president would have known about Verge's Title IX background. There's just been so much stuff, and that's just stuff that has happened in the last 24. All right? I don't want to get into all the stuff that's happened in the last week because Preston went on a long rant about everything. Okay? The only thing I care about that has provided me hope in the last 24 hours is a guy named Derek Queen. That's it. A rookie from Maryland. That is the only one that has given me hope. Derek Queen in the Smoothie King Center went off. Okay? Let's go to Tandy Lion. He's a nice person. Tell my wife that. My wife should be lucky to have me. I try to be easy to listen to. When I am ranting and yelling, I don't want that to be everything. I'll be honest, though. I've done a lot of that. I've done a lot of that this year, and rightfully so. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. C-Dub in the chat. What's good, bro? Good to see you. Let's go to Sibley, and he's right about this. Okay, let's go through the teams that are really doing stuff right now in the college football playoff. Did Kirby Smart have a P4 job before taking over at Georgia? No, he was just a coordinator. Dan Lanning, just a coordinator. Marcus Freeman, just a coordinator. So you have to ask yourself, Are we fine with just hiring a coordinator, a well-respected coordinator? Okay. Now, I don't know if I want to share my spiciest, most controversial candidate tonight. So many people have sent me messages about clickbait and titles, or am I trolling? The title of this video was, is Brian Kelly taking too much blame for LSU's fall? I disagree with Preston that it's 100% on Brian Kelly. I would say it's 95%. So it's semantics, basically. But, he has had some things not break his way. But in truth, when you break down some of the lucky things that could fall in your favor, Brian Kelly had a lot of lucky stuff fall in his favor. And, we're still where we are right now as a program. I wanted to ask Preston about Brian Kelly's statement from earlier today, but I'll save that for a different day. We'll take a few more here. Okay. Yeah, it was Master P beating TCU. Yeah, Boris. Well, I don't know. There are people that I like in sports media that have loud rants and are boisterous personalities, which I am at times. And then there are other times where I just want to be chill and conversational. But I can go nuts. I just want to be entertaining. I just want to be thought-provoking. Sark was just a coordinator when he was hired at Texas. Well, he did have head coaching experience at multiple spots before taking over there. It's just, something very serious happened. Okay. Okay. Hmm. This comes in from, make sure I got this name correctly, Fred, who said, Carter, you should read up on Robert Robbins, who was the other candidate. I probably should, Fred, but I'm just gonna move on. Like I wouldn't mind doing this if it was like a head coaching thing, but LSU presidential search is just not. That's why I worked hard on getting our guest on yesterday. Just not my thing, right? But I will say, just based on what people smarter than me have said, LSU should have gone with Robert Robbins, especially the creative Jay Johnson joke he made. Let's go to Chance. Why isn't Schumann from Georgia a hotter candidate? I don't know. Chance. There's a guy I follow on Twitter. It's a big film study guy who swears by Glenn Schumann and how awesome of a guy he is. And there's a distant connection that I have to someone on that staff that works with him. I wouldn't be opposed to it because Kirby is so elite, and we've already seen a few Kirby disciples go on to do some really good things as coaches. So, I would not be opposed. I would not be opposed. I think when we get into, and this was a trap we got into with Brian Kelly, we gave him all that guaranteed money And Scott's logic was probably, hey, he is a sure thing. He is going to raise the floor of this program. And the truth is, there's no such thing as a sure thing with any coaching hire. There's not. Do you think Georgia really thought Kirby Smart would make them the best program in the sport right now? No. I mean, that's nonsense. That is nonsense. They thought he was going to do better than Mark Richt. They were like, okay, we're going to get a Saban guy. And he played here too. Well, they got lucky. I mean, they got lucky. He is the best coach. One of the best coaches ever. Okay. Now, last thing. I am, and I've not talked to him in forever, but I am friends with Adam Amin. All right. I actually met Adam Amin when, and he's a play-by-play announcer for Fox, when he was doing play-by-play for an LSU volleyball game. And I was supposed to be his assistant. And I had to back out for something I had to do. But I was able to find him, and I talked to him before the volleyball game began. And I don't remember it, but what our connection was. But I did talk to him beforehand. And it's crazy how great his career has been. And my career's been great too. But he is the number 3 Fox play-by-play broadcaster, and I love doing play-by-play. One of my goals is to do it for ESPN in the next year. And I think it's going to happen. I'll do it in any sport. Doesn't matter. I'll do volleyball. I feel like I'm prepared to do it. But the truth is, he is now the play-by-play broadcaster with Drew Brees. So Drew Brees gets the opportunity to be a broadcaster again for Fox. And I'm really excited. 2 people I adore dearly. And I think it's going to be awesome. And the reason Drew is getting this opportunity is because Mark Sanchez decided to go crazy. I'm super excited about that. All right, all you cool cats and kittens, I am done. We'll talk to you soon, okay? No super chats tonight. It's all good. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central. My final LSU Alabama prediction, it is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Jody, tune in tomorrow. I will give you one of those names. Tonight, we are doing Gumbo. Let's go.